Ooh, you catch that quick little record scratch? I'm just stuffed in there.
Right, I heard that. Man, you're gonna make me take off my, get back in the game of DJing, dude.
All right, let's do this.
It's time for another episode of Casualties podcast. Now here are two guys that were traded away from Houston long before it became fashionable. It's Patrick Lopez.
Here's the deal, I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
And Rod English.
I've got the style and profile like never before. Woo!
Greetings and salutations. It is another episode of the Casualties podcast. I'm Patrick Lopez. With me, as always, my compadre of nearly 3 decades. You know him as the notorious R.O.D. I'm thinking about changing him. I'm going to start calling you the Nature Boy. Let's do that. The style and the profile.
No, man, don't give me that moniker, man. That
the
can only be
shoes.
one Nature Boy. Yeah,
the gator shoes. I mean,
Yeah.
you are the closest of both of us to Space Mountain. Let's be real.
I mean, this is true. I mean, I'm only about 45 minutes away, but I mean, I don't think that's the Space Mountain that Mr. Ric Flair was talking about. But we're gonna leave it at that.
Wait. You mean his promos really weren't as PG as we thought?
Nah.
That just I don't know, man. That's just glass shattered in my head. A whole new thing.
Yeah. Pretty much wrecked your whole childhood. Sorry, man.
I am Patrick Lopez. With me is Rod English. Rod, what's going on, man? How you doing tonight?
Oh, man, I'm doing good, man. I mean, it's never a dull moment here in the sunshine state of Florida. So life is good, Chief.
Awesome. Got a few updates. The typical, I think at this point, every time we do a new episode, we have a, this is your Deshaun Watson update. Things like that. Little Final Four talk. We have a new national champion in college basketball, in the men's college basketball realm that is from the state of Texas. We have NFL draft coming up. We have a few other things. But first off, Rod, how have you been the last few weeks, man? How have you been?
Man, I've been pretty good, dude. I can't complain. Personally, professionally, I would say. I mean, there's been a whole lot of things that have been going on to where, starting to see some things skyrocket, starting to see some opportunities continue to present themselves.
Nice.
Just full transparency. If everything goes well, and it should, Monday afternoon, I will be obtaining my Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification. So
is that kind of like the WWE Hardcore title? Is that what that is?
Close to it.
I just need to know, do you have to defend this Six Sigma belt 24/7?
No, I don't have to defend it 24/7. But this is more like the Intercontinental belt.
Okay,
this is more like the IC belt because if we're talking about WWE, and their titles, black belt is the heavyweight championship.
Now, is it the Smoking Skull heavyweight championship or the double winged eagle belt?
It's the double winged.
All right,
it's the double winged. It's the double winged,
that was a classy belt, man. That was a classy.
That it was. And then if we fast forward it to nowadays, Master Black Belt is the Universal Championship.
Oh God! Don't even get me started on, man. My closing shot's gonna be about wrestling, but it's gonna have more of a broader take. But WrestleMania was this past weekend, 2-night event. Now, you know what? I like this, man, just because before COVID, we were talking about spending 6-7 hours straight in an arena watching a pay-per-view. At home, we're in an arena for 7 hours, 9 hours. It was just getting ridiculous for an event. And so splitting it up, four and change amongst 2 nights back to back. I like that. I hope they keep that format going forward. Just me. But, cool, man. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So what does that mean? Does that mean like you mean, what does that do for your authoritarian big boy pants? What does that mean for you?
That just makes me more of a subject matter expert when it comes to fixing stuff, more so broken processes, right?
Okay,
And
all right.
so, working for the company that I work for, we're a global company and we're a huge enterprise. There we have a lot of things that work pretty well. We got some things that don't work so well, and even the things that do work well can always be improved upon.
I
So,
hear that.
there's a methodology, like I say, Lean Six Sigma, which is basically a combination of the Lean philosophy and the Six Sigma philosophy, pretty much wrapped into one. So,
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Rod's taking bookings, man. If you want him to wrestle in your territory with this title, just give him a call.
hey man, yeah, hey man.
He'll
I
take
mean, the
on your
belt's
he'll
all
take on your territory champion.
the belt's always on the line, but it's
It's
not
always on the line.
24/7 though.
So a little update since last we talked. So last we checked on the Deshaun Watson, sexual harassment chart, we were up to, I believe, 22 lawsuits. But then but in the last 2 weeks that we've been out, there was a woman that was published in SI. She kept anonymity. She spoke up as a masseuse that wasn't a part of these lawsuits, but that her experience mirrored very close to what happened, though it didn't go as far as some of these women are claiming with Deshaun. And she did notice a few things. The last time we talked about this last episode, we did take a much more serious tone, and overall we try to keep it a little lighthearted. But in situations like this, when we're talking about sexual assault and harassment of women, it's very tough to do that. When you and I did those years ago, before when we went, when we went heavy into Baylor and Art Briles before everyone else did. Remember that stuff? We were
I
ahead
remember
of the
them
curve,
days.
guys. If you want to go back, dig in through the old Apple archives from season 1 years ago, before this whole stuff, when we were starting to hear a few of these stories, Rod and I really dug in and was like, there's something deeper there. And we both knew a little bit about Briles at U of H and his past in high school football. And there was a little bit of if you were in very close football circles, there were conspiracies about the guy. And, I'm not saying he's a monster, but what I'm saying is that he wasn't as good of a nice guy that everyone claimed Briles was. And they were giving him way too much respect for rebuilding that Baylor program. And, we'll talk about Baylor again here in a little shortly about the Final Four. But we were ahead of the curve on that, and as the months went on, that story exploded, and that whole thing just completely imploded. The university had to fire the AD and fire the head coach, and completely just restructure things and start over again. And the thing that really bothers me about Deshaun Watson is that the more we hear about these stories, it's the joke is this guy's got his kink is masseuses he meets on Instagram, and he obviously likes these girls to just do something with his booty hole. Whatever you want to say about that, the madness that is this kink that Deshaun has. Let's talk about the cases, man. I mean, we're talking about 22. Well, last week, basically Rusty Hardin, his lawyer, said enough's enough. We want to go to court because we want the names. We think we know 2 of the names, but we want all 22. And then a judge said, "Okay, well, you know what? We're ruling in favor of this. You have to redo these lawsuits with the names of the plaintiffs here." And since then, one of the women has dropped her lawsuit. But I really think that Rod, you and I said this a long time ago. We said it off bar, and we even said it the first episode that coming back into this whole thing with the story. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and Rusty Hardin can kind of paint this thing however he wants. And I'll be honest with you, just the way they've handled it, Deshaun's takes on social media has been really weird. And I don't know if it's because Rusty Hardin is one ancient mofo, man, and doesn't understand it. But, you don't brag that we have 18 other women that went on record for Deshaun and said he was masseuses that he met on Instagram. Like, basically, you're just reaffirming the cases of the other 22 by saying, yeah, he does this. Yeah, that's what he's done. That's where he's met the women. But these say that he didn't touch them or they didn't touch his dong. Like things like that. It's just weird to me how they've really approached the whole thing of defending Deshaun. And maybe it's that he just really knows, like, I'm here to get my checks from this rich NFL player, and we'll see what happens. Let's settle out and let's just move. They'll move on, but the weird thing that got me from the SI article, from that the masseuse that wasn't included in the lawsuit, that I took away from it. Well, a few things. One that kind of I chuckled at, and that was that Deshaun Watson is so oblivious. He's just throwing so much shit out there looking for women, masseuses on Instagram, that he reached out to this girl on 2 separate occasions after their initial incident that she felt uncomfortable with, and he completely just forgot who she was. Like, he's just essentially just throwing bait out there, to seeing what he can get on the line, and it's just like he's just throwing bait everywhere at this point, and he doesn't even know what he's doing, who he's not keeping track. Like, apparently he just doesn't have a spreadsheet of women that have touched his booty hole. This masseuse did, this masseuse did. Like, he's not keeping track of any of that stuff, dude. It's like, for someone that's very wealthy, that can risk that was before all of this came to light, at risk of any lawsuits and any criminal charges for kind of his a bit of a deviant behavior. It just shows me he really doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He felt like he was above it all, because of his name and his recognition, that he was going to be fine, because just sitting there reaching out to these women, just all over the place on Instagram, and this woman tells her story where it got uncomfortable, and she just was like not having it, and he realized what that she wasn't having it, so it's like, okay, kind of move on. But then he reaches out to her again one time, and she just basically says, okay, well, you're not wearing a towel, you have to wear a blanket. That's how we operate, right? And that's how I operate. He just ghosted her after that, and then not long after that again, he reaches out to her on a third occasion and was like, hey, can we schedule? And she's just like, this dude really doesn't remember me? Like, really? I kind of chuckled at that part. The part that really was just really upsetting was that, just like all those other cases, the story was the same. It was the same, like the same behavior from start to finish with Deshaun, how he treated this masseuse. And so you have almost 24 women that have claimed this type of behavior, and the stories all match each other. And I don't know, man. Like, it's really tough, because at this point there's rumors that the NFL might put him on the exempt list, which I think should not happen, because and for folks that are listening, if he goes on the NFL exempt list, whatever team he's currently under contract to, they have to pay him his full guaranteed amount for that period. So just as an example, let's say he signed that $160 million contract, and I don't remember, what was it, like 130 of it was guaranteed or something, something ridiculous.
Something like that, yeah.
Something was a large chunk of it was guaranteed. Okay, well, if that's the case, and it's 20, if it's 28 of the nearly 40 million that he's guaranteed this season, because the rest is not, because they paid it in a huge advance bonus. Okay, great. But whatever his guaranteed salary amount for 2022 season is, once he goes on the list, the Texans have to pay him that. That's it. He's guaranteed that money. And at this point, it can just be like, I'm just going to go ahead and take the season off and see what happens from here, And I don't know, man. I'm starting to get a little worried about the lawsuits, how things have looked. Transparency from Busby has looked a little odd. The woman in the SIR article, there was also a note where she basically did not sign with Tony Busby, because he basically told her, we're not going to back you up at all unless you sign with our office, which that just seems a little crappy to me. If you're claiming that you're doing this for the women, and the way they were treated, and hopefully that he wouldn't do this to someone else. The whole we're making a point thing, it seems to invalidate that, her comment about Busby. It's this saga is such a mess, Rod. When you saw I'm sure you read the SI article. When you saw late last week that the judge ruled in favor of Rusty Hardin and Deshaun Watson to name these women, what did your thoughts shift at all, or are you still kind of at the same mindset of where you were when this whole thing started?
I'm still at the mindset of where I was when this first thing blew up. But I did, send you a message offline, that, hey, look, it's put up or shut up time now, in which, from a duration, or from just a timeline standpoint, this needs to happen. I mean, if we're going to do this, let's quit talking. Let's get serious about it, and let's get down to business, right? And so I'm in total agreement with the judgment. If these women are really, telling the truth, put your name to it.
But in this age of internet trolling, internet deviant behavior because people feel they're safe behind a firewall, behind an avatar, and they make threats to people. I mean, one of the girls, I forget her name, Ashley. I think it's Ashley. Last name Solis. I'm gonna say her name because she came forward last week publicly that I am one of the 22 women. She came out, but since then she has received, as typical of the internet behavior with the majority of shitheads online, she has received death threats. She has received all types of harassment online, which is typical from a bunch of cowards on the internet. It's, and of course, since the judge ruled in favor of Deshaun's camp to name for Busby to resubmit these lawsuits with these women's names on them. One woman did withdraw the lawsuit, so it starts to create that you're going to validate the monsters out there that say we have nearly 24 women that are lying because Deshaun wants to be traded from the Houston Texans, which I think is such a weird. I mean, we have some weird conspiracy theories out there in the last 10 years, and I've seen some crazy shit the last 4 years plus here. But it seems like that's such a weird conspiracy to try to believe in. And some folks I've actually chatted to off out in social media land actually really believe that's what happened. It makes it tough because it's going to make these other we're going to hear more women withdraw their names. We're going to hear the news that more will do withdraw, and that's of course what Rusty Hard wants. But it'll infuriate me because we still don't know what's happening if the Houston Police Department's going to look into criminal charges on him for this, if there's any valid criminal charges at all. If there isn't one single charge, then that means to me that it's going to validate the people that are calling all of these lawsuits false and frivolous.
Yep.
And that's frustrating to me because like I said before last episode, I know I'm very close to women in my life that are victims of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and whether it was the workplace or just out in the social scene, and how it's so hard for them. It was so hard for them to come forward, to people about this stuff. It's so hard for them to talk about it because, they get treated a certain way where questions like, well, did you basically saying, did you deserve this? It just blows my mind that people think like that. But, it's a little disconcerting, man. What could happen next with this? Because if he's innocent, okay, then let's go to court and let's let the court run these things through, But it's not. To me, it's starting to look not very good for these women, and it's a little nerve wracking for me when I think about that.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that the only way that can change is that they're going to have to exhibit some courage. They're going to have to exhibit some courage, and if it is truly something that he did, and you are looking for justice, then go through with it. I mean, if you're looking for justice, unfortunately, it's going to come at a cost, right? And so, and it doesn't even matter what the cost is, but it is going to come with, it's going to come at a cost. And so, you got to count that cost and make sure that it's worth it. And the thing about it is sexual harassment. I think that is something worth if you deal with the death threats and all that stuff. And and I'm not condoning that behavior because that's pure trash. Right. And, just like you said, you got a whole bunch of cowards that are a bunch of, social media gangsters, and 9 times out of 10, those death threats that's all they are is just a threat. Nobody's going to carry them out. So you got to have some backbone, and especially if it comes down to something that you truly believe in, then you got to have some backbone when it comes to that. Right. And so, if you didn't have the idea of taking this thing all the way through, then you should have never gone to Busby from the jump.
Okay, that's fair. No, that's a fair assessment. For me, I think I'm in the camp, and I know there's that innocent until proven guilty, and I believe that. But I also believe we both believe where there's smoke, there's fire, and we both agree that this guy has an issue with he's a sexual deviant that likes to take advantage of his authority, like his brand, who he is, his notoriety, and he basically takes advantage of women because of that. Women that see themselves as professionals in their industry, and so to me, that just I can't get over that because we're talking about, like I said, 24. It's like. Well, they're making it up. 24 did? That's a lot of women, man. That's a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun's not getting a pass in all of this at all.
And he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
He shouldn't.
But if well, hold on. You're saying he's not getting a pass, but if he's put on the exempt list, technically he is getting a pass because he's gonna get a crap load of money to just not play, and the Texans are gonna have to deal with it. Now, if he's on the exempt list, I don't know what that means for the cap sake of the NFL cap.
Right.
Like the salary cap. I don't know what that means for the Texans. I'll have to look into that further. I tried looking into that recently when I was doing some prep here a couple days ago, and I couldn't find any confirmation. So I'll have to talk to a cap buddy of mine on Twitter. He's really big on the NFL cap. So I'll check with him on how that works. But
it's gonna be interesting to see, how the money's gonna play out because I mean, when you first said that his the money that he's guaranteed that he has to be paid, I'm up here thinking, the whole value of the contract. But but if we're talking about one season, he's still on the books for another 3 years. And so
3+, I think 3 or 4 years. But here's the crazy thing about that: if there are people out there that say just cut him, cut ties, and just cut him and move on,
it's
right?
Not that easy.
It's not that easy, guys, because his dead cap for this year, because this is when the new contract kicks in this year, the extension. His dead cap number is $70 million, guys. So even if he's being paid his full contract year, including the guarantees and non-guarantees, it's upwards of 40 million, right? Well, his cap number is 70 million because of the upfront bonuses they paid, and it's counting towards the cap this year. So if they were to cut him, they would have to take an additional, $30+ million of cap hit. Well, if they cut him down to, I think how it works is that they pay the full amount of that dead cap this year and a portion of it next year, right? So you're talking about to cut him right now, you would lose $100 million over 2 years of cap money.
2 years, man.
And that's, if you're in the process of rebuilding, like you're not, if you're talking about a long-term rebuild, that's one thing, but you're talking about this. If you looked at what Nick Caserio has been doing, and I've actually haven't spoken much about this, but he has literally flipped the roster within like a month, like 3-week period, just completely flipped the roster with a bunch of decent talent with 1 to 2 year deals, like 1 year, or 1+1 deals. The second year is not guaranteed. Things like that. It's like that's what this team needs. Like they had players on here that they were overpaying, that were not performing and not consistent, and the culture was bad. Whatever. I'm moving away from crapping on McNair and Easterby. Let's leave that alone. Let's talk about the fact that what Nick Caserio has done for that team has been pretty badass.
Credit, man.
I mean, they were like in cap hell, restructured big contracts, and then released a lot of players, released J.J. Watt, made some trades, but then he's been bringing on a bunch of skilled players that could be good depth as they rebuild. So it could be a faster than you expected rebuild, but it's going to be hard to bring in other big names if you cut Deshaun and you have that big albatross around your neck for the next 2 years. Like it's going to be hard. The best thing they could do is to just take a trade. Last week Sam Darnold was traded for picks, picks and I forget who else was in that deal. I think there was a player, right? Was in that deal.
Yeah, I think there was a player, but the picks that they were that the Jets got back, they were like, second rounders and I think a couple of second, couple of third, and a couple of other late round picks. So
okay.
So the value was okay, but you know what? As far as Darnold's value, that was about right. And so so we flipped this to Deshaun.
Sure.
His trade value because now, character is now a problem.
Sure.
Character is now a problem. And
Well,
so
not even. I wouldn't even say it's character, Rod. I'm just they don't know if this guy is like. What happens if criminal charges are filed? So why would you want to trade, give up a bevy of picks and bring in a big cap big cap contract if this guy may not even play? Because if he's charged, he's not going to be like criminally. He won't go on the NFL exempt list. He's going to get suspended, and so yeah.
Well, I guess I'm going to say that regardless, the Texans are going to lose this one. They're going to lose this one.
It sucks, man, because I think you and I both know we're going to pull our hair out as this goes on. They should have pulled the trigger and got rid of him a long time ago.
Yep. But being stubborn, and being in this, which is normal Houston Texans organization behavior. They're extremely stubborn. And it's going to be their stubbornness that's going to. I'm not going to say it's going to completely torpedo this franchise, but it's going to continue to set this franchise back even more because we may have seen the last down that Deshaun Watson has ever played in the Texans uniform. Not that I really care because, like I say, you see what hat I'm wearing right now, so
we'll get there in a minute. We will get there in a little bit.
Yeah. So, but anyways, but being objective, but yeah, I think that with the Texans, just like you said, not pulling the trigger, like we thought they should have, way all the way back in, early January or February or whatever, they missed out on their golden opportunity, and this could have been another team's problem.
Yeah, I mean, apparently the Carolina Panthers were really like heavy on them at that time, and now that they traded for Darnold, it's like they don't need him anymore. So like you're running out of options. You're running out of options at this point. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be the Jets have a ton of picks now? They have a ton of picks, and they have the need for them. So maybe the Jets, but I don't know. The last thing I heard was he wasn't real hot on New York because remember, he still has a no trade clause that he can pretty much dictate where he wants to go.
Right.
Well, it's like Deshaun. Shit, man, you ain't got much. You ain't got many destinations left because a lot of teams have put themselves either in a position with a quarterback they've dealt for recently, or the top 4 picks are ready to draft 4 quarterbacks, which we'll talk about here with draft talk in a minute. But it's like you're running out of space and you're running out of options, man. I don't know. And I think if Miami is still interested in him, they are strong arming the Texans right now. And they're also, of course, they're just waiting to see what happens with these lawsuits. But it's a tough situation, man, because it's like you can't really do anything at this point. You really can't.
It's a lose-lose situation. Deshaun's going to wind up going to a team that he doesn't want to go to. The Texans are going to get a low ball offer, because all the other 32 teams or 31 teams have the leverage now. They all have the leverage. I mean, the Texans have no leverage whatsoever. They had it back in February, before all these lawsuits started popping up and everything. They had all of the leverage, but because, we're going to hire David Culley and maybe Culley can and his persona and whatnot can maybe see if he can have a change of heart. Man, please. I mean, Deshaun and his camp just looked at him like, okay, yeah, all right. Oh, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Still don't want to play here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's boiling down to, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, I want to say on the last episode, it is a lose-lose situation. Yeah. Deshaun Watson's not going to go to a team that he wants to go to, and the Texans are not going to get the value that they should get because, like I said, it's a jacked up situation, man.
It is. It is. It's a mess for all around. We have a bunch of women that are claiming that he sexually assaulted them. That's frustrating, And then it looks like this, no matter what, I think you and I both said this, no matter what happens, this isn't going to be there's not a good ending to this story.
No.
But it's a tangled mess right now. And unfortunately, the franchise, whatever they're trying to whatever culture change, whatever they're trying to do with rebuilding, it's stalled because of this mess, and it sucks, man. Now, I'm not gonna put all of the blame on Deshaun in this whole thing because there was a story that came out about the fact that, and this is the other thing that just angered me about Deshaun Watson. Apparently, he borrows a massage table from the equipment team, at NRG Stadium from the Texas organization. So that means someone over there knew that what he was doing to a degree, not completely, but they knew something of what he was doing during COVID, which was he was breaking COVID protocol.
Yeah.
And going and taking these massage tables home. The other thing is that a few months back, the equipment manager that everybody apparently loved was fired. So it makes you wonder, did Easterby and Casario McNair find out if that did happen? How much did they know? How much did the equipment manager know what was going on? Like, was he fired because of the potential COVID violation, or did they learn what Deshaun was doing with those things? Like he was barring to have masseuses come out there, and if one of the guys, if the equipment manager knew, yeah, he's hooking up with these massage therapists, blah 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 blah. Like we don't know, and I don't want to really speculate too much on that, but it's a bad look because what it means is that, if you're on the outside looking in, your first response is, oh, well, the Texans helped, facilitate his deviant behavior. We don't know.
Right.
We don't know if let's just say Easterby was the one to fire the equipment manager. Was it because of the tables being taken, or was it because he found out completely what's happening? Well, if he found out what was happening, then once they fired the equipment manager, they did nothing after that. They basically just let Deshaun go do Deshaun, And we know that the behavior persisted until March of this year, like before days before the first lawsuit was first batch of lawsuits were filed. So it's a mess, Rod. It's when we sit here and we talk about all the different angles, all the story updates, all of the news, everything, all the blotter. We make our jokes about it, but they come from different sides of this whole thing. It's just a tangled mess that it's so hard to believe that we're here with this franchise, especially after the disaster the previous year with Bill O'Brien trading DeAndre Hopkins, the saga that was Jack Easterby and how it was a horrible culture. And I know people now that want to support the Texans are like, well, maybe Easterby was never the problem this whole time. I'm like, I get that. You have a valid stance now to say that. But at the same time, I'm what I take from those stories that were coming out from SI and other reporters was that there are multiple players that hated Jack Easterby. There were staff at the company in the organization that hated Jack Easterby. Okay, well then that's a little different from what you could say that, oh well, Jack was doing his best to protect the Texans because they knew Deshaun was not as squeaky clean. It's like, to me that's borderline covering for what they did for covering up for Aaron Hernandez, knowing that guy was a piece of shit to the highest degree, and Urban Meyer knew it, in Miami, and Belichick knew it to a degree, though I'm thinking there was a lot of plausible deniability intentionally by Bill Belichick, when it came to Aaron Hernandez, because when you go back and watch that Netflix documentary, which is a really good view, by the way, I don't know if you ever saw it, Rod, but it's really good.
No.
Okay. It kind of leads you to believe, it's like, okay, well, does Belichick really run this franchise like we think? We know he's the GM, we know he's the head coach, is like, but does he, like, after that, is he just like, like, I let my staff take care of the rest of it. I worry about, getting ready for the season, getting ready for each week for teams, but then I also, draft and bring in talent, but I don't really, what they do with their time, I'm gonna let everybody else handle that stuff, like how everything outside of that, I don't know, but it makes you question that whole thing with Aaron Hernandez, and that's kind of the thing I'm starting to wonder about Deshaun Watson, the Texans, is what did the team know? What did important people in the organization know about this? Because it sounds like at least maybe one person that has been fired since possibly knew what was going on, to a degree. Mm-hmm. That person may not have known the full story, but he knew that Deshaun was breaking COVID protocol, and also borrowing massage tables consistently. The flip side of that is like, that's just how big of a piece of crap is Deshaun Watson that he's so cheap to go not buy his own, spend $5,000 to buy his own massage table, that he has to consistently go to the team and take a table from the organization to
You're
do
getting
this.
paid. You're getting paid $40 million a year, man.
I mean, seriously, man, just go on Amazon, use some of your Amazon points. I'm sure you've racked up a little bit of points, right? Like your Amazon points, and just Prime Now you a table, dude, and it's yours. Like no one will know what you're up to, and oh god, it's just this whole saga is just it's stupid, it's sad, and it's just infuriating all at the same time, Rod.
I wholeheartedly agree, man. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record again, but once again, it is I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's a lose-lose situation.
I agree.
Nobody wins. Everybody's getting screwed of it. And there's going to be just a lot of carnage that's left over.
Sure.
I mean, it's like I mean, not to, play this lightly, but it's like a hurricane just goes through a city, tears stuff up, and just leaves all the damage in its wake, man. So, I mean, this is basically what we're dealing with, and so.
Speaking of carnage, I want to bring up the carnage that took place in college basketball.
Oh.
And it was led by the hurricane known as the Baylor Bears. Like that team, they just wrecked it, man. They wrecked shop in the Final Four. And I was really looking forward to 2 solid games, and we got 1 out of 2, and that one is arguably one of the greatest Final Four game. I'm talking about semifinal round games I have ever watched.
Yes,
I have ever watched. What Gonzaga and UCLA did. That was just pure art, man. That was just like from start to finish. That was pure art.
Real basketball.
That was great college basketball from start to finish. And how it ended, you're just like, it had to, when it went to overtime, you're like, of course this game had to go into overtime, right? This is how this game had to, it had to go this way. And then, to see the shot go in for Baylor, okay. All right. I mean, not Baylor, I'm sorry. UCLA, you're like, all right, here we go.
Oh, UCLA, yeah.
UCLA, and then Jalen Suggs just goes down the court, throws it up, about 5 feet outside of the 3-point line and just banks it in. You're like,
banks it in.
It had to end that way. It had to end that way.
Yeah. It was so reminiscent of Duke and Kentucky back in '92. I mean, it was so reminiscent of that game to where it was a constant battle from the opening tip all the way to the last shot. And that's the reason why they call this tournament March Madness. That's the reason why we watch it. That's the reason why we love college basketball. Yeah. It's the reason why we pay attention to college basketball in March. We don't really too much care about it during the regular season because
maybe like the last 2 or 3 games of the regular season going into conference tournaments. That's when people start watching normally. And for people to say I'm a college basketball aficionado. Bullshit. You don't watch it until near the back end of the season. Let's be real.
Right. Now, you do have some that are really bought into their, their school of choice, whether they're alumnus or just a perfect fan, that they'll pay attention to some of the recruiting and some of the moves as far as, player retention, especially now with one and done type stuff. So you do have some of those fans that pay attention to that type of stuff, me being one of them. But, look, I don't start really looking at college basketball till late February, going into early March, because I'm trying to see, okay, like Longhorns, okay, where are they positioned in conference right now? Where could they be possibly seated in the conference tournament? And is their resume strong enough for them to, if they bomb out in the conference tournament, can they at least get a decent seed in the big dance? Right. That's all I'm paying attention for.
Yeah. I get it. What you bring up the Longhorns, but they parted ways with Shaka. They brought in Chris Beard from Tech. And then Loyola loses Porter Moser, who's heading to Oklahoma now. The Big 12 is a freaking basketball conference, man. Holy cow. Like they are serious business now with Baylor, Oklahoma State. Kansas is Kansas, I mean, it's just like holy cow. I'm okay with the Beard acquisition, moving from Tech to UT.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. He's been to the Final Four, so he's been there. So they
He's
want
got
somebody.
pedigree.
He's got pedigree, so that's like for them. Okay. Plus he's a Texas boy. He was an assistant coach way back in the day, or grad assistant,
and a former player,
and a grad assistant way back in the day. So he's got ties to the university. Okay, am I thinking it's such a great hire? Like when Shaka was hired, not really, because I thought Shaka was such on a hot streak when he left VCU that he was going to be the man. But at the same time, when he was hired, Tom Herman was hired, as the football coach, and that just didn't work out for the university. So I'm hoping that Beard can find a good pace. I really am. But that said, like, it's just amazing what's happened in the Big 12. And it's a basketball conference now. It's a basketball conference.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, and let's not forget about, what Beard did at Texas Tech.
Yeah. I'm not dismissing that, but I'm saying, like, I'm not wowed by the guy. I just think it's probably because there's not a lot of longevity for him yet in his career as a head coach.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Yeah,
with major programs. So that's probably what that is. But I'm not saying it's an awful hire. I wouldn't be shocked if he succeeds and takes them into the tournament and actually does something for once.
Right.
I wouldn't be shocked about that. But it's not like if he falls on his face, I'm also not going to be shocked in that regard either. But back to the Final Four, that was such a great game. But then on the other side, both of us being Texas boys were so excited for that matchup of Baylor U of H because we were so glad to see U of H back in it and back in a high profile situation in the NCAA tournament, and Baylor just filleted them. They just slaughtered them. It was brutal from the first 3 minutes. It looked pretty tough, like it was going to be a back and forth game, and then Baylor was like, "Oh wait, sorry guys, we're the Baylor Bears. My bad. Let's beat that ass." And they did. It was horrible.
Those cats were just unconscious from 3-point range.
God,
you had the guy, I forgot the kid's name, number 24, that came off the bench. First shot off the bench was a 3-pointer, and it was just all net.
All net.
Just straight water. I was like, oh my God. The fact that this dude is coming cold off the bench and lighting it up like that, I said, man, this game's over. Yeah. I think I was texting you, during the whole thing, and I was like, man, this could be over in the next 5 minutes.
You said they're not missing, man.
They're not missing at all. And it's like U of H, University of Houston, aka U of H, they could not get a shot in the paint. I think they went either 8 or 9 minutes, the beginning either 8 or 9 minutes of the first half without scoring a single point in the paint. If you can't score a single point in the paint, you're losing, period.
Yeah.
They only had one source of offense, and that was Sasser. And he did what he could. He was pretty decent from beyond the arc. But Grimes couldn't get off a shot for nothing in the first half, and he's their top scorer, and just the offense was just extremely stagnant, and Baylor's defense, credit to Baylor, they plugged up the middle like it was crazy. Every time that they tried to drop it down to White in the paint, there's like the defensive rotations was just so awesome to see how they rotated, collapsed in the paint real quick. And they have such lateral quickness to where as soon as U of H tried to get back out to the perimeter, their perimeter defenders were just rushing out to the 3-point line and defending. And I was like, oh, this is how you play defense. This is a textbook session of how you play defense.
Yeah.
And so it was really refreshing to see, to be honest with you. Now, I'll be honest, I wanted U of H to win. Hometown team, right?
Sure.
Wanted U of H to win, but but still, the matchup was just a beautiful reminder of how dope the Southwest Conference used to be back in the day.
Yeah.
The Southwest Conference in basketball and football was absolute brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. And so it was just a good reminder. And I listened to a whole lot of talk shows, and they all talked about, how this reminds you of the old Southwest Conference and everything. And yeah, to this day, I miss it. To this day, I miss that conference, man. I mean,
I get it, man.
just,
I do. I get it. And
yeah,
before the game even started, we had everybody from the mayor of Houston, the city of Houston, and other people were like, "Hey, enough's enough. U of H needs to be in the Big 12." And I'm like, "Hold up, there, big dog. Just they've had the Final Four run that we've been waiting for." Calvin Sampson has rebuilt this team and this program. Tillman Fertitta's helped rebuild the athletic department with the money he's pumped into it. They're not there yet, okay? And in that Final Four game, it shows they're not there yet. Now, can they be there? Hell yeah, they can, because I really like what Sampson's doing, and another couple of good recruiting classes, and boom, they're back in it again, and they're making noise. And I wouldn't be shocked to see them, if not in the final, I don't think in the Final Four, but maybe in the Elite Eight or Sweet 16 again next year, because Calvin really coaches them up. But obviously they need that one big interior talent. They need that. Because like you said, when Baylor was just going nutso with the switch out and the pressure defense, they broke down, man. They broke down, and it was really tough to see. But I can see them back there. They just need to recruit, one or two really quality big men that can help change the franchise. I mean, the program. But it was good to see them both back in it. I know a lot of folks, and even folks in this state, that weren't very happy with Baylor winning just because of the history of the basketball program with the murder in the late '90s, early 2000s, and then the whole fiasco with the football program a few years back that I touched on earlier. A lot of folks are like, "Hey, they shouldn't deserve it," but these kids aren't a part of that. Scott Drew wasn't a part of any of that stuff, and I'm happy for them to kind of move forward, and hopefully this helps with the healing process for Baylor fan and fans of the program and students there that had to be a part of that whole disaster years back, a few years back with the football team, and. It's great because if basketball is good, when we have good college basketball in the state of Texas, it makes that college sports season stretch out a little farther, because we know baseball is going to be all right. It's not going to be great all the time, but we know Texas, we know Rice, we know A&M, we know U of H, we know all these schools consistently there's at least one or two of them in the state that have a really good season,
Yeah, man, and since you're talking, shout out to the Longhorns. They're ranked third in the nation as far as baseball is concerned.
Yep. So it's one of those things where it's like to have that college season in the state of Texas kind of stretch good sports from the fall all the way through the spring and kind of end of the year, with baseball. It'd be nice to have a state that has really good basketball, consistently again, and I think we're getting there. And it was really fun to see what happened with Baylor winning. It was a slaughter fest with Gonzaga too, man. Let's talk about the championship game. It was just like these boys, they don't give an F at this point. They're like, you know what? Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and win this all. We're just gonna go ahead and just say we're taking the title.
Man, it's that Texas swag, man. I mean, this is just how we get down, man.
Yeah.
We go in. I mean, it's just like culture. I mean, shucks, man. Everybody knows Texas for chopped and screwed, and the hip hop culture and everything, because we just have that attitude of, hey, this is us, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna do us, right? So and you either gonna bop with us or you're not. So yeah. I'll be honest with you. I was going for Gonzaga in that game because I'm such a huge Mark Few guy.
Okay.
If there's anybody that has deserved a ring on their finger, it's definitely Mark Few and what he's done with the Gonzaga basketball team. And now that we're talking about it, you could say the same for Scott Drew. I mean, and what he's done with that Baylor program. I mean, he took that program from
basement.
from crap to national champion, and Baylor is, can you call them a basketball school? Yeah, they won a title. They're a basketball school. So,
Sure.
and that's all due to Scott Drew. And so, But you can say the same for Mark Few. The only thing that is eluding Mark Few is that ring, and that's it. It's cutting down the nets on on that Monday.
Sure.
And so and I believe that Mark Few, before it's all said and done, he's gonna get his.
Okay.
He's gonna get his. I mean,
he's
you look
not going to
at
win one with Jalen Suggs because he is a top 3 pick. I mean,
he
showed it. He showed it in this tournament why he is legit. And I can't wait, man. I would love for that cat to be in a Houston Rockets uniform. Don't get me wrong.
We just need the Rockets. Well, if they could continue on their pace right now, based on the mock drafts,
sure.
You got some folks having the Rockets take Mobley, and then you got some mock drafts having the Rockets take Suggs. It just depends on where they go. Now, if they decide to just go ahead and go all in and tank like we want them to, screw it. Just run the table in reverse from here on out, right?
Well, people that want to argue against tanking are like, well, it really doesn't matter anymore because of the percentages when you look at it. No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think that the top, my point is that you have Cade Cunningham, you have Mobley, you have Jalen Suggs, you have three guys that look like they're legit NBA players, NBA players. And guess what? The top three, the 3 worst records all have the same percentage chance of getting the top pick, right? So you're saying to me, okay, well, in other seasons where it's a 1, maybe a 2 that's kind of good, we don't know, and then it drops down after 2, that if I land one of the top 3 picks and it's number 3, then I'm kind of screwed for tanking, right? This isn't one of those seasons, in my opinion. This is a season where you're like, if you land 1, 2, or 3, you're gonna be all right either way. You're gonna, whether it be Mobley, Cunningham, or Suggs, you're gonna be all right. And I was thinking, watching him play, who Suggs really reminds me of? A little more athletic Gary Payton. That's who he reminds me of.
Yes.
That's who he reminds me of. He plays. He can run around the court because of his size. Because people forget Gary Payton's 6'5", 6'5", I believe, 6'4", 6'5". A taller point guard, and Suggs is 6'4", lanky. But he's fast, and Payton, the glove was fast. He was a great defender. He could shoot the 3. I'm noticing a lot of this, like when I watched him play in the tournament. Mobley, obviously a very mobile big guy. He could come into the Rockets and really, if you put him in the middle with a Christian Wood, that could be a really great dynamic duo there. So I wouldn't be so opposed to it. But for me, it's probably Jalen Suggs. I know other people are like Cade Cunningham, but I think if the Rockets are like looking at Kevin Porter Jr. being the future at their 2-guard position, I don't really like him with Cunningham because a big guard that distributes the ball. I think Jalen Suggs can kind of play off of, to a degree, Porter, whether he lead at the point or if he's a shooter off the point at the point while Porter distributes the ball. I'm okay with it like that. I think to me, a Suggs Porter combo works better. That's if you believe that Porter is part of the future of the franchise in your rebuild.
That they're interchangeable. I mean, both of them can play either the 1 or the 2.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you're just trying to build value with Porter to ship him off, and get more draft picks because you want to build him up, go for Cunningham if he's your point guard. I think John Wall will be traded next year. I think he's here and he'll be out of here next year because he's got, I think after next year it's a player option deal after that in the 2023 season. So I think Wall's gone next year. I would like Eric Gordon to be gone next year, but that contract is just so screwed up that he's got at least 4 years of the deal left. So it's going to be hard for them to trade him with 2 years left on the deal, or 2 years plus. So I don't think that's going to happen next year, but that's the frustrating one. Christian Wood, you just keep him, man, and just see if you can build him. He's 25 years old. If your rebuild takes 3 or 4 years, he's still going to be under 30. He could be a guy to get you points and be an attraction, help build around. And then if it's Mobley, then you have a really good 1-2 punch in the middle, with Mobley and Wood. But if it's not, then you can really create a great guard combo with Suggs and Porter Jr. or Cunningham and whatever they decide to do. If it's Porter Jr. or they build, I don't think that's a really good fit combo right there. But there's a lot there that can happen. I know I'm talking in the NBA, but it's making me excited that the Rockets are losing. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh man,
every time they lose, I'm like, yes, keep losing, and then they're winning that one game. Like, what are you doing? What are you
Yes,
doing
exactly.
here?
We do not want them to succeed. We want them to fail at all levels, man.
Yes, I want you
They
to fail because I want those picks to be high. I want,
yeah, yeah.
I want Giannis to want out of Milwaukee next year because the 2023 pick goes to the Rockets because that'll be obviously a tanking year for the Bucks. So give me
Yeah.
just tank it, guys. Just tank it. I want you
Yeah,
guys to all
yeah.
tank.
We want you to run the table, but gosh dog it, do it in reverse,
Do it in
man.
the other direction. Run the table in the other direction. So great Final Four.
Yeah.
Showed me some great talent. There are a couple of really good kids that I don't think they're gonna have like superstar careers in the NBA, but I think there's some solid guys in there. Timmy and a couple, at least 3 players on the Baylor squad are going to be legit NBA players. I think it's I was really happy with this March Madness because we had the tournament canceled last year with COVID, and it's still tough for me to watch sports to a degree because I know that we're still in the middle of a pandemic. But when these programs or these leagues do a really good bubble situation like the NBA did last year, I have no problem supporting them. College basketball tried to do their best with the tournament with the bubble they created. So even though there was a lot of teams and a lot of moving parts, they did the best they could to create a bubble, which I'm okay with. It sounds like things went well for college basketball in that regard.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? And one more point before we move on to something else.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, because we didn't even bring this up. I think this was a forgotten subject. Yeah, I think the tournament went well for the majority of the teams, except for one VCU.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We never really talked about that whole thing with VCU, did we? The first round.
No. We need to wrap on that a little bit. Whoever decided to do whatever it is that you did that put your team in jeopardy because you went and contracted COVID.
Yeah.
Your scholarship needs to be revoked.
Or if you're a staffer, you need to be fired.
Yeah. Possibly all of the above, but that one particular player or players should have already been in a transfer portal. I mean, they should have been in a transfer portal like the following day.
Yeah.
The following day. How do you give Florida just an easy pass to the second round? When you're a part of that good 7-10 matchup, historically, we've seen quite a few 10-7 upsets. Yeah. You were in perfect position, and Florida was ripe for an upset.
Yeah.
I'm talking about ripe for an upset because if you ask me, Florida wasn't even a solid 7 seed.
No, they weren't.
I think they lucked into that seed right there.
That first round game was not a pretty game. It was not.
No. No. And so, you basically said, you know what, man, thanks for the invite, but, no thanks, man. I'll catch y'all on the flip, come on, man.
Did we ever find out what happened? Like, what really happened?
No, because, after it went down, you really didn't hear of it in the mainstream media because all the other good games that were progressing in the rest of the tournament. So it kind of got swept under the rug.
Yeah, I remember we were getting ready for that game, and when that announcement went down, the VCU was out. They were moving. They were putting him in for the L. You texted me. You were like, "Dude, did you see what happened?" And I'm like trying to read. I'm like, "Oh my God, this really happened!" Like, it's just, I can believe. I will admit, I forgot that happened. That was because of the sheer. Pardon the pun. Well, pun intended. The madness that we watched in the tournament. I totally forgot about VCU.
Right.
And when you brought it up just now, I'm like, oh crap! I totally forgot about that. Totally forgot.
Yep. But hey, it contributed to the madness. Otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it a month later.
I figured at least one team was going to have to shut it down because of COVID, and I was like, this just the numbers game. Like, yeah, something's going to happen but I didn't expect it to be VCU.
Me either.
Florida be like, all right, that was cool, that was easy.
Yeah. Hey, and we can put up a banner that says, "Hey, we made it to round of 32."
And all it took was all it took was for them to just stay in their hotel room and play Xbox, man.
Yep.
That's really it. And
yeah, as a between 19 and 21 years old, what else you gonna do?
Yeah. It's they couldn't listen, and like you said, that whoever it was that either contracted it or was in contact with someone that caused them to be pushed out of the tournament, they need to be in the transfer portal. Like I'm sure we're probably going to see a Deadspin or an SI or some like a busted coverage or one of those crazy wackadoo sports sites? What are those wackadoo sports sites to cover VCU? I wouldn't be shocked if we find out what really happened was, one of these guys got a little thirsty and his girl showed up at the lobby, and he got a little slap and tickle, and they found out that she had COVID. And it's like, great, now we got to shut it down.
Yeah, because she was at a party from the night before or whatever, and
But
I'm pretty sure. I'm surprised that Barstool or TMZ Sports hadn't gotten a hold of this one yet.
Oops, that was an accident. Totally didn't mean to do that. I did.
But fitting though.
Yeah. So let's switch it over here, man. Just a little bit. I don't want to talk much about it. Baseball kicked off, and we're moving on. We are trying to move on away from the whole cheating saga that is. Let's make fun of the Astros, trash cans, all that stuff. We've given our takes about that when we first kicked off season 2, so no need to talk about that. The Astros are off to a good start, 6-1, and then they've lost now. It looks like 4 in a row, and they might be losing 5 today as we're recording on Wednesday, April 14th. But the thing is that today it was also announced that 5 players, and of course 4 of them were starters, big name players, were put on the injured list because of COVID protocols. Man. It's one of those things where it just frustrates you because you know that someone did something really stupid for this to happen. And it's frustrating because you're talking about Jose Altuve, you're talking about Alex Bregman, you're talking about Yordan Alvarez and Martin Maldonado, 4 of their starters, 4 guys in the lineup, the key players, their starters gone. And they had to bring up a bunch of the scrubs from the minor leagues to come in on Wednesday night, and it's looking really bad. They're getting slaughtered right now by the Detroit Tigers.
They're getting their faces kicked in right now as we speak.
But what? At this point, I'm like, what? Screw it. These guys deserve this crap because they've been playing like crap lately. They started off hot, but then they played like crap. But on top, it was beyond all that. It's just this is what happens when you fail the protocols, And someone just like the VCU, someone has to screw it up for everyone else, And these guys. The COVID injured list doesn't have a day window like the standard one of 15-day, 30-day, all that stuff with baseball. The COVID injured list is day to day, but the problem is that you have to, when you're in COVID protocols, you have to quarantine for 10 days. So at minimum, they're going to be gone for the next 10 days, for the next nearly 2 weeks. It's just frustrating, man, like to see this stuff. And I mean, we can sit here, you and I can sit here and rap about COVID at some point. I'm a fully vaccinated guy. Yes, I've gotten both my shots. I damn near died from the second one a couple days ago. It was pretty rough. It was looking pretty bleak there, but I pulled through. I kid mostly. But it's just, we can sit here and rap about COVID and our thoughts and our takes about all of it, from just the social aspect of it, the medical side of it, the political nonsense that's become of it, whatever, man. I just will tell you, though, it's like the NBA did it right with the bubble last year.
Yes, they did.
They did it right, and it's like, how hard is it for other sports to do that? And because they're allowing all these players in the stands, and I'm kind of curious if these players got it because at the baseball field at Minute Maid Park, they allowed a lot of people to come into attendance this weekend. I'm wondering if there's any correlation to that in baseball with what happened with the players getting it or not. We don't know yet.
Oh, it's a possibility, man. It's a possibility. I mean, I looked on somebody that I follow on Instagram, and they live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And
oh God, did you see the baseball
Globe
park?
Life Park was at full capacity of all 40-some-odd thousand people, and I was like, oh, okay,
all right. Well, at least if there's 40,000 of them, okay. Well, at least 3 or 4 of them are probably not going to live after going to this baseball game. It's tough to say that, It's really sad to say that. And I love my sports, But at the same time, like I harken back to last year, the NBA bubble. It started off hard because there were players that were hard-headed. James Harden, Russell Westbrook, other players in the league got COVID and they recovered from it. But once they got that shit on lockdown, it was on lockdown. So far as to where a rookie went to go pick up, literally walked out of the park into the parking area and had to be thrown out in quarantine because they were like, we're not having it. Daniel House brought him some strippers.
Daniel House.
And I'm calling that. I'm saying he was thrown. He was the sacrificial lamb for James Harden, because when I heard that it was apparently a stripper, I'm like, yeah, ain't no way James Harden's not a part of that. When you hear the word stripper in Houston Rockets, I'm like, nah, that's James Harden.
Of course. Yeah, man, he was running a play for James, man.
I'm sure. Yeah. He ended up having to be the lead blocker and got cut blocked and taken out of the game. But overall, the NBA, that bubble last year went off well. And I really hope that the NBA is not doing that. They're a little looser this year. With baseball at this point, if we notice the trend of these increasing, a bunch of players being missed out, we're going to start missing games, and they're probably going to have to stop letting fans go to the games. For safety reasons.
But I don't know if Manfred has the chops to do it. Now,
Rod, we need to have a episode specific dedicated to Rob Manfred. We need to have that.
I'm down for it, man, because there's probably one thing that he did here recently, and we could say that for a whole nother episode, because I don't necessarily want to it's going to open up a whole Pandora's box. But there's one thing that he did recently to where it's like, okay, it's about time. It is about time that you stand for some type of principle.
Sure, we'll talk about that. You know what, man? Let's dig in in the next episode on that, because there is a bit of a socio-political perspective of that one, and that's that whole thing what happened in Georgia, and we'll talk about that because a couple years ago there was a similar thing in the NBA when it came to the All-Star game in North Carolina. So it's something I do want to talk about. Where if you're one of those, if you steer hard to the left or you steer hard to the right, guys, one thing you'll find out from Rod and I is that we're not here to pull the wheel from you in either direction. And quite honestly, I don't need you to be a backseat driver to these takes. When it comes to that, we're going to talk about our perspective with that, but mostly we're going to talk about it, how it relates to the sports, the side of sports, and then we'll move on from it. But if you want to throw some vitriol at us, save it. Don't really care about what your hate takes are. I don't really care about it. Either side.
But you definitely want to tune in for that one, because I got some heat for that one, man. Okay. I got some fire for that one. So that's gonna be good.
Let's do that one. Let's just do show prep now. Let's just do that one, and then the next episode after that will be NFL draft, because we're gonna be in the NFL draft.
Hey, give me the echo on NFL draft, man. Give me that echo.
The NFL draft on ESPN. Brought to you by Captain Crunch. Just because I love Captain Crunch. Brought to you by Chipotle and our new quesadillas. Quesadillas. Because it's Chipotle. Come on. They don't say quesadilla. They don't say the Chipotle quesadilla. They say the Chipotle quesadilla. Let's say next, guys, if you're really into it, next episode, it's going to be 50% Rob Manfred and the saga of MLB currently, and 50% NFL draft. How about that? Let's do that.
That sounds like a plan to me. Let's do it. Right. Lock that in, man. Lock it in.
All right. So, you know what, Rob? Let's wrap this bad boy up, man. You got a parting shot tonight? Yes, I do. Okay. And it is a special parting shot. This parting shot, as we're recording right now, it is 10:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, on April 14th. Yep. Today is my dog's birthday. The one they call Pilo. They don't call him that. They do not call him that. Yeah. Well, I call him Pilo. He gets away with that. but no one else does.
Yeah, because that's my dog, but no, it's my boy, Patrick's birthday, man. Patrick Lopez, just like he said in the intro, man, we've been boys for almost going on 30 years. And we've experienced a lot through life. I mean, we basically, in a sense, grew up together. We became men and Pat was in my wedding and I attended his wedding and we've come up through those through these ranks and come up through life and experienced success together, experienced a little bit of failure together and everything. I mean, and we've been through a whole lot together, and I could definitely say that this is my brother from another mother. So once again, my parting shot. Happy birthday, my man, and I hope that you had a great day today. I hope that you were able to grill hard today. I don't know if you had gotten that opportunity or not, because I know that you were talking porterhouse and some other type of stuff out there.
I went to the butcher, picked up a big old porterhouse, a couple of them.
Man.
My wife jumped in on.
Oh, so you went on and did it? Okay,
I went and did it. Normally, I'm a big steak guy, and I was thinking about, do I want a tomahawk or do I want a porterhouse? I love me a good ribeye, and I think the wife and I were. What's that? What's that? That you said something.
Oh yeah, ribeye, dude.
I love ribeyes. Ribeyes are great.
Oh man.
And I was telling my wife, I think the ribeye is probably my favorite cut of beef. Okay, but number 2 is the porterhouse. Is the large, thicker T-bone cut, the porterhouse, because you got the best of both worlds there in terms of steak, man. You have one side of it is the filet mignon. See, if you want a little bit of that, I like my meat a little softy dofty, you got the filet mignon.
All right.
Now, if you're like, I'm an old school Texas boy, I like my meat tough.
Yeah, I like my T-bone.
I like my meat with a little bit of gristle to where I'm chewing and my tobacco come out one side and the meat goes into the other, and then the tobacco stained teeth fall out on one side and the teeth with the gristle are on the other. That's the New York strip side of the steak. So that's what I really love about the porterhouse. You got the best of both worlds there, man. And
I feel you on that, man. I feel you because
I love the porterhouse, but I will say, for me, pound for pound flavor has to be the ribeye.
Oh, hands
because
down,
you have
man.
the marbling inside the meat cut, and if you know how to cook, if you know how to grill a steak, if you know how to give a little love on the grill to the ribeye and not let it flip and bend and all that, because if you know how to trim the fat edges and all that stuff, it just has so much flavor. Now I'm going to say this, Rod, I can't put in the number 1 slot because I've only had it once. Is authentic Japanese Kobe beef, not U.S. bred Kobe beef, engineered Kobe beef. I'm talking about authentic Kobe beef. I've had that once in my life, and it was a small piece of it. So I really can't say Kobe beef is number 1 for me because I really haven't sat down and indulged in it. And sometime very, very soon, I'm going to fly out to Kobe, Japan, and I'm going to get me some serious heapings of Kobe beef. Okay,
sounds good.
I will say, pound for pound, man, ribeye is number 1 for me. So I thought about it. I'm like, do I want a tomahawk, which is the ribeye with the large bone in, or do I want a porterhouse? And I was like, you know what? I love the ribeye, but really, man, you're spending an extra $60 on a tomahawk that's just bone. It really is.
That's all it is bone,
to
man.
Have a handlebar on that bad boy, right? Like, do I want to eat this like Fred Flintstone, or do I want to eat me just a good piece of meat? So that's what I'm going with the porterhouse. So I went with the porterhouse.
Yeah.
Threw that bad boy in the grill. And just by the way, guys, in case you don't know this, and I'm sure some of the old Lamar people listening to this, Rod will attest to this, I am a masterful cook. Like, I am good on the grill. I know how to make my stuff in the kitchen. I made me some garlic mashed potatoes with some brown gravy that was just delicious, bacon wrapped asparagus.
Look, man. My dog can handle his business on the grill. I have sampled some of the delicacies that he's thrown on the grill, man. Hey, my boy can do it now. Yeah,
I come from a long line of champion barbecuers, and I know me a grill. As long as I, like when I go to a grill, I can just touch it and be like, kind of like Dr. Doolittle, just like the animal speaks to him. The barbecue pits speak to me. I'm like, yeah, yeah, this one's in pain. Yeah, this one's rusted too much on one side. It's in pain. We got to let it go. touch another grill. I'm like, this one is strong. This one comes home.
The force is strong.
The force is strong with this one, and the convection is perfect. So for a brisket. But yeah, man, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I had that porterhouse. Wife and I sat down. We both had porterhouses. She baked me a little cake. I'm a simpleton when it comes to my baked goods. So it's just like I like those box cakes because I like the flavor of them. Devil's food. You know, a little bit of chocolate frosting on it. Have a scoop of Baskin Robbins vanilla ice cream, and that's it, man. And I'm not a really big caffeine drinker anymore. I used to be a really big caffeine drinker, and I stopped that a long time ago. Well, you know, every now and then I'll have me a little splash of soda of Dr. Pepper because I'm a big Dr. Pepper fan.
I mean, look, if you're a Texan, if you're a true Texan,
yeah,
you will get down with the Dr. Pepper, man.
Yeah,
plain and simple.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Instead of having a beer with my steak, I have a fridge with crushed ice, which was probably the best investment ever to buy a crushed ice machine. Crushed ice, throw some of that Dr. Pepper on there, have the steak. You know, it's like.
Oh man, boy,
bacon,
boy,
you
was living good today, man.
Guys, if you're not watching the video, if you're listening to the audio right now, if this isn't ASMR, I don't know what is, but what you're missing out on is there's a little bit of drool coming out of Rod's mouth on the right side there.
Man, look, I haven't had dinner yet either, man. So I mean, my stomach's already talking right now, man.
So Rod's wrap up is happy birthday to me. Thank you, Rod. Really appreciate it, man. 43 years in. Rod's on his way in a few weeks. He's going to be hit the 43 mark as well. We're on the march to 45.
That's it, man.
We're on the march to that Jordan jersey, 45.
45.
But yeah, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. My parting shot is just to thank you. Really, really appreciate it, man. 30 plus years knowing you. Well, close to 30 plus years. You know, we're getting there. But yeah, a lot of ups and downs. A lot of, like you said, successes, failures. We both experienced loss together. You know. Of loved ones, and through it all, man, it's just like we managed to just say, hey, we got to do what we got to do to get through this. But I can always rely on Rod to be there. When I had a major shift in my life, when it came to a career change that was much needed, the first call I made was to Rod, and he was like, let's talk, man. Let's talk, you know. What are you thinking? For me, I'm normally a very level-minded person, but this was a very difficult transition for me, an opportunity that I was very, very scared about. And when I weighed, I'm a very analytical person. It was just like, the risk seems very high for the reward. And Rob was just like, man, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I'm like, that's really high I normally think, but he was there for me. And I really appreciate that, Rod. So thank you very much, man. That's my parting shot, is a thank you. So, guys, thank you for listening. Following us, you can go to Cap Casualties. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. It's all either at or / Cap Casualties. Subscribe on our podcast. You can go to Podbean and type in Cap Casualties. That's where it's sourced out at. Or what I recommend is go to Spotify, because I've become a big fan of Spotify over Apple. But it's still there. But I love the Spotify podcast layout. It makes it much simpler for me to find my episodes and roll through, a back catalog for each podcast. Apple was a little more cumbersome in that regard when you're looking for podcasts. Wasn't a big fan of that. I like how Spotify has it. So you can just type in Cap Casualties Podcast. You'll find the big Captain logo. That's us there. Subscribe where you can, guys. Like where you can. Spread the love. Spread the message. We just want to talk sports. If you want to be a part of it and send out some feedback, send out your thoughts to us, go for it. We're always here for you. The Rod, let's wrap this bad boy up, man. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for the birthday wishes. It's been a pleasure as always, man.
All right, man. Catch y'all on Flip.
Peace.